My body's composition is determined by my genes.
I'm doing Bonnie Boo's cutting.
Hey, eyes up here.
Making the choice to objectify or over-sexualize yourself does not make you a feminist. Okay, babes, let's talk about it. Please subscribe. I think we should begin by defining the definition of satire, as that seems to be a common misconception when it comes to anyone defending the actions of these three ladies we will soon discuss. Satire is a form of comedy. Satirizing is a thing that it's making fun of, showing things as it is, but on an absurd level that's obviously exaggerated, often used in politics to embarrass, humble, or discredit its target. For satire to be funny, there has to be some truth. Sabrina Carpenter. Let's first discuss some of the drama surrounding her new album cover, why your defense of it being satire shouldn't make it any better, before we dive a little bit into her brand and why her over-sexualization does not make her a feminist. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, then Sabrina Carpenter's new album cover for A Man's Best Friend continues to prove that. I genuinely cannot say what message she was trying to convey with this image. To me personally, I am amongst the side that finds it insulting and degrading, especially if you consider female history or compare this album to posters or advertisements from previous decades. No man will look at this cover and take it as a protest of women being abused and oppressed. No man will look at this cover and come to the realization that they do treat us like dogs. Very few men will find this unsettling, and in fact, most of the men in the comments of the post announcing the album are just confirming their interpretations of the image by calling her a good girl, saying she finally gets it, that men own her like that this is her knowing her place, and they just find it flat out kinky. Men are visual creatures, so of course they're satisfied with the album cover. If it can be used as a poster that turns a man on, it's not going to liberate the female gender, and that alone makes her anything but a feminist. All of her music is about men. She sings about sexual or romantic partners, often being hypocritical from one song to another. Even the way she performs on stage is for the male gaze, and right now the album cover is kind of confirming that. Because of the anonymous male figure intentionally cut off in the photo, the male viewer can now visualize themselves in this scenario as if they were recreating some kind of fantasy. So to the opposing side, tell me how this is making her an empowering feminist. For those defending this album saying it's satire or just a joke, well, technically by definition of the word, you're right, but not for any reason you should be proud of. Because even if this is satire, the people who find it insulting are still correct and valid. Referencing the definition I mentioned earlier, she is using this image to ridicule and embarrass, discrediting females and true feminists for all the hard work they've done to be seen as equals. So if we are reaching out as far as to say that this is satire, then it is, but for the wrong reasons. And while your argument of her being a feminist means she has the choice to be submissive or not is taken at face value, that's not what feminism is. Opposing systems that oppress women, that's feminism. And unfortunately, I doubt her album cover was ever meant to be a protest towards the patriarchy. So if this is truly a joke, then the only people laughing right now are the men rubbing one out while telling her she finally knows her place. However, all we have right now is our interpretation of the cover, since the album itself has yet to be released. Once the full album is out, that's when we'll have a better understanding on whatever story she's trying to portray. Another thing is, she's not really the most original person ever. I feel like she's trying to have a moment that becomes iconic because it's in reference to something else. That, or she really doesn't know what to say. Her Man-Child music video is compared to Ariana Grande's Into You music video because of the same filming location, and her title card for this single is compared to the one Olivia Rodrigo has for her Deja Vu music video. She released an alternative album cover for Man's Best Friend, which resembles this image of Marilyn Monroe. Her Juno song is in reference to the movie being about teenage pregnancy, and let's not forget the photo shoot she did that is often compared to a quite disturbing book and movie titled Lolita, which is a story about a 37-year-old man having a sexual obsession with his 12-year-old stepdaughter. I also want to acknowledge the actor's real-life age difference during the production of this film being 51 and 14. And the comparison continues when people look at her and call her a Polly Pocket, which backs up the claims of her sexualizing a childlike figure, as the Polly Pocket character is a 10-year-old girl. I do feel like Sabrina Carpenter is trying to do what Ariana Grande did for the Thank You Next music video, but instead of referencing iconic moments in media, she quite tastelessly humbles women again and again for all the wrong reasons. I'm not really surprised though. I have like a couple songs in the past, and I grew up watching Girls Meets World, but it's her development in character that I question. It's weird for a grown woman who calls herself a child to essentially cosplay as a child, or at the very least sexualize pedophilic relationships and childhood trauma. Her concerts are also a little controversial, but in a way that's not yet talked about. People typically bring up how her wardrobe is inappropriate, while I only agree to the extent of Juno because that's her sexualizing childhood pregnancy. However, it's really the lack of herself taking account for her younger audience. During one of her show bits, she asked an audience member their age, them replying with 16, and her continuing to ask if they were horny. After asking if the 16-year-old felt horny, she then says she shouldn't have asked that. Because of how she does her shows, she should have restricted the audience age to 18 plus, to save not only the parents' complaints, but also her image. Sabrina Carpenter's oversexualization is being masked as feminism, only instead she's using her privilege to get away with a lot. Whatever message she's trying to convey throughout her more recent work only seems to be received in a negative light, seemingly affecting everyone else while she, quite literally, runs away when any form of accountability should have taken place. She obviously can express her sexuality all she wants, but does she have to do that while her image is in comparison to a child, that of which she is encouraging and promoting? How she herself talks about how she looks like a little girl and her petite body to then go on stage and sexualize herself, like during her Mexico show saying,
"I'm full grown but I look like a niña. Come put something big in my casita."
Nonetheless, she isn't a feminist because she was never put out to be one. That's a label you guys gave her to defend her in one way or another. Although controversial, her work is meant to be expressive, and these labels don't align with that image. I don't think she cares to use her platform to bring attention to political topics or to awaken your knowledge, making you more aware. She doesn't even seem to care about sustainability, as she seems to be associated with brands that aren't really ethical or transparent about their products. For example, her collab with Skims, her being a face of Prada Beauty, and even the clothing in her own brand has no description of where her items are being manufactured. She's not here to make a statement outside of what's already making her popular, so why should she care about how her influence affects her audience, right? Sydney Sweeney. I will be mentioning her unsettling ad campaigns like her bathtub soap and the American Eagle jeans, shifting into who her audience really is, and also why her oversexualization makes her anything but a feminist. She had a lot of potential. Although I've never seen anything she's acted in, her skills are praised whenever she does serious roles like for Euphoria, Handmaid's Tale, and Immaculate. However, for a woman who's trying to fight the system, constantly saying how she wants to be known for her acting and not her body, she often oversexualizes herself, as she's now mostly known for her obsession with male validation and performing for the male gaze. She has been open in the past about her insecurity with money, so there is an understanding why we're seeing her everywhere. But she's still in a position where she shouldn't be this desperate to where she has to feed into this idea that she's only capable of selling something if her breasts are talking for her. She's worked with a lot of respectable brands in the past, or is still currently under contract with brands like Miu Miu, Baskin-Robbins, Laneige, Hey Dudes, and The Beverage Buy, proving that she is capable of finding work. Because of her platform, she also has the position to market off of her hobbies, or align with brands that could boost her image in a positive light that doesn't directly shine on the male demographic. But I stand corrected, as she's the one pitching these ideas to sell her bathwater.
That the creative concept come to be.
I pitched it.
Sydney Sweeney also has the accusations of sexualizing pedophilia, because in a Dr. Squash ad she says,
Hello, you dirty little boys.
targeting a young demographic. And she too also did a photo shoot with the likelihood of Lolita being an inspiration, again reminding you that the actor's age gap for the film was 37 years. Either way, Dr. Squash's audience is male-based, so you really can't deny that she uses her body to manipulate boys or disgusting men into buying her bath soap. Even though the bathtub soap was embarrassing to witness as a woman myself, it's not something we haven't seen before, as people just accuse her of taking the idea from someone named Belle Delphine. But her most recent ad campaign for American Eagle might be the worst thing she's done to date, this ad being a marketing scheme to increase the company's monetary value. But this quick moment in the stock market spotlight actually is ruining their relationship with their true customers. Mind you, American Eagle is a brand for girls and women. They used to take pride in their diversity of jean styles and shapes, and people bought these jeans because of its previous inclusivity. It's really stupid for a brand that's consumer base is woman to hire on Sydney Sweeney, who was made for the male gaze. And they really digged a bigger hole once you hear what she says and how they filmed these ads. We actually see very little of these jeans in an ad that's meant to market jeans. And when we do see a glimpse of them, it's only when something is being suggestive and the jeans themselves are ill-fitting and boxy, which just tells the customer that they don't have good products. But the campaign itself is horrible because it's centering around their marketing phrase, Sydney Sweeney has good genes. This removing any idea of diversity by having her say,
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Sydney Sweeney has great genes.
This implying that Sydney Sweeney's genes, her DNA, are great because her heritable characteristics are desirable. Yet, she's not even a natural blonde. Another thing is, this ad is heavily compared to a series of Calvin Klein jean ads from the 1980s, starring an over-sexualized 14-year-old Brooke Shields, who even stated how these ads made her uncomfortable.
The secret of life lies hidden in the genetic code.
Genes are fundamental in determining the characteristics of an individual and passing on these characteristics to succeeding generations. Occasionally, certain conditions produce a structural change in the gene, which will bring about the process of evolution. This may occur in one or more of the following ways. Firstly, by selective mating, in which a single gene type proves superior in transmitting its genes to future generations. Secondly, by gene drift, in which certain genes may fade away while other genes persist. And finally, by natural selection, which filters out those genes better equipped than others to endure in the environment. This may result in the origin of an entirely new species, which brings us to Calvin's and the survival of the fittest.
Calvin Klein jeans.
So even in this comparison, it's quite distasteful how this idea got through its chain of command without issue. The sad part is, she still could have been the face of this brand without a lot of sexual and eugenic undertones. If they really wanted to play on this gene homophone, they could have had her say something like, yes, some genes are black, some genes are brown, but mine are blue. Except it's not about the color of the genes, it's about what you do with them. As said earlier, men are visual creatures. I'm sure they'd be happy to see her face in anything. But women are upset because they're being alienated by a brand they thought understood. Again, people defend her actions as using her freedom of choice, making her a feminist. Choice feminism isn't that positive. In fact, it's quite selfish, especially if a person is in a small minority with privilege. Because the patriarchy was created by men, unfortunately, a lot of our beliefs and day-to-day lives are under a system of misogyny. And Sydney Sweeney isn't a feminist because her choices aren't liberating women from the system. In fact, she's confirming all the stereotypes, saying that because she's a skinny blonde with blue eyes, she's a part of some supremacy that doesn't include you. Choice feminism is separated from the social movement for a change in structure, this ad being more so an individual pursuit. Bonnie Blue. Lastly, Bonnie Blue is a 25-year-old OnlyFans model known for her record of sleeping with over 1,000 men within a 12-hour period, and quite literally almost sending herself to the grave with what was supposed to be her next big thing, which she titled The Petting Zoo. I want to note that I don't care if she does OnlyFans, but it gets extremely concerning the length she's continuing to reach and how much pride she genuinely gets out of it. She actually sees herself as a community worker teaching men how to have sex and giving back to fans, but contradicts herself by saying that she is not responsible for the culture of sexualization that this is influencing, also arguing that the hate she gets are from fat, insecure women hiding in their homes, hating behind their screens. I disagree that this is teaching anyone about sex, especially if each guy only had 40 seconds with her, but instead it's giving men the wrong idea that women are actually easier than they put on and that they enjoy being degraded and mistreated. Her initial performance is just flat out harmful to her health and well-being, while also reinforcing the misogynistic idea that women only exist as an accessory to men. So no, this does not make her an empowering feminist, and this portrayal of characters she publicizes is disgusting, while also having a very high chance at giving the wrong influence to younger audiences. She is happy living without morals, saying that if a wife is not pleasuring her husband, he has the right to go cheat on her and get that sexual satisfaction elsewhere. Of course, Bonnie Blue advertising her body as a resolution. Not only is she more than happy to have sex with married men, but also children. She currently has a 3-year ban from Australia because of her having sex with barely legal teenagers.
Since being kicked out of Australia and Fiji and taking so many barely legals, this is my new room. I finally got caught for taking so many barely legals. I'd say I look kind of hot as a predator.
And thinks that because schoolgirls have been sexualized for decades, that there isn't anything wrong with sexualizing schoolboys.
Guys have sexualized women from the early stage. Like, schoolgirl content has always been a thing that's always been trending on porn. Suddenly I'm a woman. Yes, it makes me feel empowered. I know you don't agree, but I'm suddenly saying, hey, I'm the older woman and I'm going to sexualize schoolboys.
Because her sleeping with 1,000 men in 12 hours was successful, she wanted to do something a little bit more extreme with the petting zoo, which is her being tied up naked in a glass box, welcoming literally anyone to come do whatever they want to her for an unknown period of time. Initially with the expected max of 2,000 men, but when this event thankfully got cancelled, there confirmed to be over 10,000 men that signed up to be in the queue. She too is also being compared to something of the past, as it is a derivative concept of an interactive art installation called Rhythm Zero from 1974 by Marina Abramovic that was created to remind the public of people who live in fear of abuse on the daily. For this 6-hour experiment, Marina laid out 72 items on a table, ranging from pleasurable items to knives and even a loaded gun, with the following instructions that anyone can do anything they desire to her, as she is the object and takes full accountability. When it first kicked off, people in the audience were kind, offering her water, brushing her hair, or even applying lipstick. As hours went on, the men really wanted to see how far they could go. By the 3rd hour, all clothes were removed, and by the 4th hour is when they'd start slashing bits of her skin off, also cutting her throat to suck her blood. It wasn't until a man took the loaded gun, forcing Marina to hold it against her neck, that people started to interfere. By the 6th and final hour, the second she moved, everyone who participated fleeing to avoid confrontation. Marina saying that she assumed she didn't get raped because wives were present. If Marina was still fully clothed and not previously affiliated with sex work or has never intended to objectify herself, yet still being objectified, dehumanized, and abused, you really can only imagine the absolute worst that would have happened to Bonnie Blue. While Marina's performance was an experiment exploring a concept of control and power over someone without consequence, Bonnie Blue sees her petting zoo as a way to pleasure the men. She willingly objectifies herself, creating this opportunity to let 10,000 men live out their sexual fantasies. Marina had women in the audience to give her water and prevent sexual assault. Bonnie Blue's entire audience is only men, all of which having the same interest of fucking Bonnie Blue. That being said, there's nothing empowering for Bonnie Blue to mock the trauma that millions of women never got to choose. And for those saying, yet again, that this is choice feminism, a woman choosing to objectify herself does not challenge the system, it reassures it. Now I want to talk about the 10,000 men that signed up for this. Because yes, Bonnie Blue's actions are absolutely disgusting, but there is only one Bonnie Blue, and the world is full of men. 10,000 of which willingly signed up for this petting zoo. And I strongly argue that this list needs to be made public. While Bonnie Blue is normalizing rape culture, she is showing how many men don't have a problem with this behavior. The men are promoting and encouraging this behavior because they are getting something out of it. They are getting to live out their rape fantasies. The future wives and girlfriends, the current wives and girlfriends, need to be protected from these masked predators. Now that I've calmed down, I'm going to conclude this video by saying these women are taking advantage of their inherent innocence that surround their beings. The more levels of privilege someone has, by default, the more they seem to be trusted. That being said, a lot of people think that woman plus some kind of success equals feminist. These women have the privilege to embrace their interests and express their sexuality without it being dehumanizing. Yet they still choose to objectify themselves while still being respected in one way or another, which is unfair to people of diversity and is disgraceful to all womankind. There are lots of other women in these industries that even if they feel the need to express their sexuality, there wouldn't be a sense of security because they know that men would, and have in the past, feel entitled to discuss and objectify their bodies. But how these women now use their position of power embracing feminism in a way that balances their sexuality while also fighting the system, compared to those who sell with their sexuality, diluting themselves of their potential. And unfortunately, in a position like these three ladies, in the industries they're in, morals don't matter as long as you got a big check to cash. And why would any of them change if you're gonna keep signing that check?